I don't need children, and I won't pay child support.
Unable to endure the harassment from my mother-in-law, I brought up a divorce. However, I was left dumbfounded by the response from my husband.
You can't live alone anyway.
He said this with a smirk on his face. Anger welled up inside me, but I gathered my child and fled from the house. At that moment, I never imagined that things would turn out like they did a week later. My name is Anna. I'm a 25-year-old housewife. I lost my parents in an accident when I was young and had no relatives, so I dreamed of marrying early and building a happy family with someone I loved. After graduating from university, I met my husband, Liami, at the company where I worked, and was attracted to his straightforward attitude. We started dating and eventually got married. My mother-in-law treated me like her own daughter, so living with her at my in-laws' house was not a burden. I had a reliable husband and a kind mother-in-law. Eventually, I gave birth to our long-awaited son. However, the modest happiness I had finally obtained did not last long. After giving birth, both my mother-in-law and my husband stopped helping around the house completely. Our newborn baby was adorable but required attention for everything, and I was left to manage household chores and childcare alone, leaving me physically and mentally exhausted. Despite seeing me in this state, she ignored my struggles, and it was taken for granted that my husband sided with her. They had always been very close, having been a mother and son duo for so long, which I used to envy before we got married. However, as I observed them daily, I realized how abnormally attached they were to each other.
Anna, how come there's so much dust around when you're always at home?
She forcefully scraped up a speck of dirt from a corner of the room with her finger, then approached me and rubbed it on my cheek. What are you doing?
Instead of making that indifferent face, put more effort into cleaning.
Mom's right. Clean it up again.
Whenever they criticized me, it was always a joint effort. However, this was still tolerable compared to the times when I was subjected to unbearable verbal abuse. Furthermore, my mother-in-law, even when looking at her son, would sigh and say things like,
I don't need a grandchild who isn't even that cute.
She maintains a good outward appearance and is skilled at maintaining good relationships with neighbors, so no one around us knows the true situation at our home. Until I discovered her true nature, I too had the impression that she was cheerful and caring, and I thought my husband's fearless personality was a positive trait inherited from her. However, I never expected that these two would change so drastically after our marriage, and I gradually found myself feeling more and more cornered. One day, my mother-in-law, who seemed unusually in a bad mood, took a bite of some prepared food and spat it out.
I can't eat something this awful. Your taste buds are off.
With that, she angrily threw away all the dishes that were there into the trash bin. I was left standing there, dumbfounded.
What are you staring at? Hurry up and remake it.
She kicked the nearby trash bin with a loud clang, startling my son, who then burst into tears. Without hesitation, she walked toward the baby crib with a contemptuous expression on her face. I instinctively stepped between her and the child, but she pushed me aside and peered into my son's face.
Why is he so noisy? What grudge does he have against me for giving birth to such an ugly grandchild?
It was unbearable to see her nerves being frayed, potentially putting harm to my child. Exhausted, I could only weakly apologize, saying, I'm sorry. I mean, even someone like her managed to raise a husband all on her own. I repeated this to myself, hoping I could somehow manage to get along with her. But as I thought about it, I realized that continuing like this would hurt my child. So, I decided to talk to my husband about it. That evening, as I was preparing his dinner upon his return home. "I'm sorry, but your mother threw away the food I made today, so there's only something simple." But before I could broach the subject of what had happened that day, he cut me off and displayed his anger.
Huh? After a long day at work, you can't even serve a proper meal?
"It's not that simple." "Then why don't you tell your mother to stop harassing me?"
You're just a useless wife. That's why it's a problem. Don't you have any intention of handling things on your own without relying on others?
Despite my desire to find some way to compromise with my mother-in-law and seek advice from him, I was treated coldly. Unable to withstand his words, tears overflowed, and I ended up sitting there in silence. "Why did you marry me then?"
Well, I needed someone to cook, clean the house, and do the laundry, didn't I? It would be pitiful to make my mom do all the housework, right?
His unapologetic remark left me speechless.
In other words, I married you to have a servant.
As he chuckled at his words, any desire I had to trust him vanished in an instant. I can't connect with this person emotionally. I was overcome by a sense of despair, as if I had wandered into a pitch-black tunnel. After that, my mother-in-law repeatedly harassed me. The endless abuse continued day after day, and my heart was worn out. One day on my way home from shopping, I stopped in front of a railroad crossing with my child in my arms. I thought to myself, if I just jumped in, I might get relief. I was thinking about that as I stood in front of the descending barrier. I heard a loud thumping sound for a few seconds before the train arrived. When I came back to myself, I felt a chill run down my spine as I was horrified by my thoughts. I knew that I would not be able to protect not only myself but also my child's life if I continued like this. I headed for a certain place. That evening, after finishing their meal, my husband and mother-in-law left the cleanup to me and relaxed in the living room. I approached them slowly. They must have noticed the intense expression on my face as I stood before them. Yet, they both merely glanced at me and then turned away. Taking a deep breath, I calmly spoke up. "I've reached my limit. Please, let's get a divorce." They looked surprised at my words, but quickly exchanged glances and shook their heads with an air of disbelief.
Can you survive on your own if you leave me? Stop saying nonsense and go wash the dishes.
My husband responded dismissively, seemingly not taking my statement seriously. Sitting next to him on the couch, my mother-in-law chuckled disdainfully. "I just need your signature now." I faced them directly and handed over the divorce papers that I had tucked away in my pocket. In fact, before returning home, I had stopped by the municipal office to pick up the documents. Upon seeing the papers, his face quickly turned red, and he raised his voice.
I don't want the child, and I won't pay child support.
Knowing that I had no family to return to and nowhere else to go, he must have assumed I wouldn't be able to do anything.
Well, that's fine. She'll probably come back crying soon enough.
She chimed in.
Yeah, that's right. Next time you come back here, apologize. If you do that, maybe I'll forgive you.
He added. As I observed their attitudes, a sense of bitterness grew inside me while feeling the warmth of my child in my arms. Nevertheless, I felt that protecting ourselves was the priority. I pushed the divorce papers onto my husband, took only the bare essentials for myself and my child, and left the house. After that, I sought refuge at a mother-child support facility that I had heard about before. With the assistance of the facility, I began preparing to live independently and start a new life. My first goal was to live with my child in peace, so I decided to start looking for a new job. A week later, I received a call from my husband, whom I had thought I would never hear from again. Thinking it was a call from a company I had interviewed with, I accidentally pressed the call button. What I heard on the other end was my husband's voice, trembling severely and sounding desperate.
Please help me. The police.
What do you want? Don't contact me anymore. Not wanting to engage, I was about to hang up without listening further.
Wait. If things continue like this, I'll be in serious trouble too.
Indeed, behind his desperate plea, there was a commotion in the background. Although I initially hung up without further discussion, I became curious due to his strange demeanor and decided to go check it out nearby. What caught my eye there was the unusual sight of multiple police cars surrounding my in-laws' house. Amid the chaos, I spotted my husband in a flustered state, rushing towards me. After he explained the situation to me, I was speechless with disbelief. Life at their home had deteriorated drastically since I left. Unable to manage any household chores, he neglected cleaning, leaving the house in disarray. He didn't even sort the trash properly and would accumulate it without proper disposal, leading to daily complaints from neighbors. My mother-in-law, angered by criticism directed at her beloved grandson, sometimes even stormed over to the neighbors' houses to complain. This revealed her true nature, and witnesses started noticing her previously undisclosed intimidating behavior. Consequently, her reputation in the neighborhood deteriorated rapidly day by day. He had a disgruntled expression as he spoke. Initially, he resisted the idea of changing his attitude toward those around him but eventually felt increasingly uncomfortable. On this particular day, he mentioned advising his mother to alter her behavior.
Then my mom started screaming and getting angry. She threw dishes and caused a scene, which frightened me, so I ran away.
From her perspective, she likely felt justified in her actions for the sake of her beloved only son, but he perceived it differently. However, neighbors, alerted by the commotion, called the police, resulting in the arrival of patrol cars to intervene.
You're the only one I have. Please help me. Come back.
His pitiful plea, disregarding everything he's done before and seeking help. How convenient for you. You're just troubled because you no longer have a maid to do the housework, right?
Come on, please. I won't complain about your awful cooking or the kids' noisy crying anymore. I'll even overlook the fact that you left on your own.
Despite his almost crying face, I could sense no remorse in his words, only frustration. You don't understand what you did wrong, do you? Or maybe you don't even think you did anything wrong. Saying this, I brushed off his desperate plea. Perfect timing. Did you sign the divorce papers I left before leaving? I'm going to submit them to the office, so bring them now.
Wait a minute. Are you serious? How do you plan to live after leaving me?
You've always looked down on me, but I can live with my child alone.
Don't say that. You're just being stubborn, right? I'm still willing to forgive you.
He probably truly believes this from the bottom of his heart. It seems his selfishness is deeply ingrained. I have nothing I need to be forgiven for, and I don't need you. Just go ahead and do whatever household chores you're not good at and live like a servant.
What did you say? Even my mom was strict with you because she cared about you, and yet you're so ungrateful. Can't you understand how my mom feels?
Facing my assertive stance, he now started to shift the blame onto his mother. Always portrays himself as the victim, trying to blame others for everything. Your mom cares about me? I don't think so. Come to think of it, even in the early days of our marriage, she always wanted things done her way. So, what are you then? Blaming your mom who did things for you.
Well, that's.
It's hopeless with you too, isn't it? And this is the result, isn't it? Pointing out the chaos around us, I looked firmly at him. I had no intention of gauging the reactions of this man exposing his pitiful state or the angry expressions of my mother-in-law rampaging inside the house. I'm not their possession or their servant anymore. Amidst the gathering of neighbors who had heard the commotion, I apologized to them and the police, saying, "I'm sorry for causing a disturbance." Then I added, "I have no relation with these people. If you want to know more, please talk to them," and left the scene. Left behind, my husband continued to shout grievances, while from inside the house came the sound of my mother-in-law hurling accusations and the shattering of glass. Afterward, I received the signed divorce papers from my husband and successfully ended the marriage. I claimed a settlement of $10 million, including compensation and child support. My husband and mother-in-law severed their ties due to that incident. He moved away to escape the cold stares of neighbors, struggling to find steady work at his new place and continuing to make payments while doing day labor. I heard that even in his rundown apartment, he couldn't manage household chores, accumulating trash and causing problems with neighbors. My mother-in-law, too, lives a solitary and quiet life, feeling lonely. On the other hand, with support from many people, I secured a job after going through interviews, marking a fresh start. Each time I see my child sleeping in the bed, my determination to live surges. I aim to carve out my future with my strength and cherish these peaceful days above all else. How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Well then, let's meet in the next video.